world today is drowning in music. It hums from our cars, our stores, our phones, our dreams. We are surrounded by melody, yet starved of meaning. We have learned to sing without listening, to repeat without understanding. Every song, every slogan, every mantra carries a spirit, and sometimes that spirit is not what it seems. The devil does not silence you. He teaches you to sing the wrong song beautifully. He dresses deception in rhythm, he cloaks emptiness in harmony, and he convinces the soul that sound is substance. And so, humanity dances to its own undoing, smiling, streaming, celebrating, never realizing that what it repeats shapes what it becomes. There is a music of heaven and a music of earth, and between them stands the human heart, tuning itself daily to one or the other. The songs of the age are not merely entertainment, they are sermons. They preach to the subconscious what the conscious no longer questions. They whisper that truth is relative, that pleasure is purpose, that pride is progress. And the tragedy is not that the world sings such songs, but that the faithful have learned to hum along, not because they are evil, but because they have forgotten how sacred sound once was, how every note was meant to lift the soul toward light. The first of these modern hymns is the song of the self. It sounds noble, even empowering. Believe in yourself, trust your heart, follow your truth. But hidden beneath its melody lies the oldest lie ever sung, the promise that man can be his own God. There is power in belief, yes, but belief detached from humility becomes delusion. Self-confidence without conscience is pride disguised as strength. The song flatters the ego until it forgets its source. It crowns the creature and forgets the creator, and in worshipping the self, the soul loses its center. For a universe where the self is supreme becomes unbearably small. The second song is the ballad of wealth. It hums through commercials, glitters through culture, whispers in every heart that has ever felt less than. You deserve it all, it says, and the chorus is loud enough to drown gratitude. Wealth itself is not wicked, but the worship of it is witchcraft, because it enchants the heart to bow before gold. It replaces the sacred word enough with an endless craving for more. And like every spell, it begins gently, a desire for comfort, a little recognition, a harmless indulgence. But soon the music changes key and the dance becomes a chase. The soul forgets rest because greed never ends where gain begins. Then comes the third song, soft and sweet, the lullaby of pleasure. It invites you to relax, to enjoy, to feel good now. It sounds harmless. What could be wrong with happiness? But this song does not lead to joy. It leads to numbness. Pleasure without purpose is anesthesia for the soul. It sings you to sleep while your hunger for meaning starves. And the deeper you drift into comfort, the more allergic you become to calling. Pleasure, when it replaces purpose, becomes the gentlest form of poison, slow, silent, seductive. Heaven often speaks in whispers, but pleasure demands volume. And so, the quieter truth grows, the louder pleasure plays. The fourth is the march of control. Its rhythm is power. Its lyrics promise mastery. It tells humanity, we can fix everything. We can build a world without pain, without loss, without limits. But in trying to command the universe, we lose communion with it. Control feels righteous, even compassionate, until it crosses into tyranny. When man stops trusting grace, he begins manufacturing gods. He manipulates outcomes, forces timing, bends truth to convenience. And in doing so, he practices a kind of spiritual sorcery, the attempt to command what was meant to be received. Faith listens, control demands. One is prayer, the other spell. And finally, there is the quietest and deadliest song, the requiem of indifference. Its lyrics are sighs, its rhythm monotony. It hums beneath headlines and heartaches, whispering, nothing really matters anymore. It numbs the believer more effectively than temptation ever could. The devil does not need to make you hate good. He only needs to make you stop caring about it. Indifference is the cold silence after faith has fallen asleep. It wears the sophistication of wisdom, but carries the scent of death. When nothing matters, goodness fades, and evil wins by default. Yet beneath all these false songs, another melody still waits the original harmony that existed before the world learned to lie in tune. You can still hear it in acts of compassion, in tears shed for truth, in laughter that expects no reward. It is the divine music that calls every heart home, the song that cannot be recorded but only remembered. It plays not in the air but in the soul, and every time you choose humility over pride, generosity over greed, courage over comfort, you become part of that symphony again. The world does not need louder music, it needs purer ears. For when the heart is tuned to heaven, even silence becomes song. And the moment you remember that truth, the spell breaks, the witchcraft of culture loses its rhythm, and the soul begins to sing again, not for fame, not for approval, but for the joy of being in harmony with what is eternal. And when the soul begins to sing again, something unseen shifts in the world. The air feels lighter, the noise less suffocating. You realize that life was never meant to be a concert of competition, but a quiet composition of communion. The false music of the age loses its hold because it no longer finds resonance in you. The witchcraft of deception always needed an echo to survive. Once your heart stops repeating it, the spell dissolves. You begin to hear with new ears not just what the world sings, but what it forgets to sing. You start noticing the hollow tone in words like success and influence. You hear ambition without wisdom as dissonance. You recognize that noise can be loud yet lifeless, while truth can whisper and still move mountains. And you begin to understand that every soul carries a frequency. Some radiate peace, some radiate hunger, some radiate despair. The songs we choose to live by determine the atmosphere we bring into every room. The spiritually deaf bring storms, the awakened bring light. This is where moral strength is born, not in silence alone, but in discernment. The world will always sing its seductive tunes. It will glorify vanity and disguise it as freedom. It will sell you chaos in the key of progress. But the wise do not cover their ears, they tune their hearts. They learn to separate melody from meaning, to listen beneath the rhythm of culture for the pulse of eternity. For truth does not compete, it calls. It waits like a note that never fades, waiting for the listener brave enough to hear it. It is here that inner transformation begins, not as a sudden revelation, but as a gradual retuning. You unlearn the noise you once called normal. You let go of the lies you once mistook for empowerment. You start realizing that moral strength is not loud conviction, but quiet consistency, the ability to choose what is right when no one is singing along. In a world that prizes performance, integrity becomes rebellion, and every time you refuse to harmonize with falsehood, heaven takes note. Slowly, you discover that discipline is not punishment, it is the art of staying in tune. Gratitude is not sentiment, it is the posture that keeps the instrument of the soul clean. Purpose is not a career, it is the rhythm of eternity playing through a single human life. When you live this way, even your smallest actions carry harmony. The way you speak becomes music. The way you forgive becomes melody. The way you persevere becomes prayer. And you begin to see that the greatest danger of modern witchcraft was never the occult. It was distraction. It was the quiet erosion of awe. The enemy never needed to destroy goodness. He only needed to make it boring. He doesn't have to silence truth. He only has to make it sound outdated. But the moment you recover wonder, you recover power. Wonder is worship in disguise. It reawakens the soul's ability to see God in everything, in the way sunlight bends through dust, in the laughter of a child, in the courage of those who choose kindness over cynicism. From that point on, every day becomes sacred music. Wealth becomes worship when used to uplift rather than impress. Work becomes prayer when done with integrity. Rest becomes praise when embraced without guilt. The same world that once felt mechanical now feels musical, alive with divine resonance. You no longer chase applause. You listen for alignment. You no longer seek noise. You cultivate stillness. You realize that abundance was never meant to be stored but shared. And as you live like this, you begin to influence others without trying. Not by preaching, but by presence. Your peace becomes contagious. Your quiet strength unsettles those still trapped in the noise. You become a mirror of what they forgot existed, a life unenchanted by the world's spells, yet enchanted by truth. People will sense it before they understand it. They will feel a strange nostalgia near you, as if hearing an old song they once knew but forgot the words to. That song is love. It has been waiting beneath every false chorus, every counterfeit rhythm, every desperate cry for meaning. And when they ask you what changed, you will tell them, you stopped singing what the world sings. You started listening again to conscience, to silence, to God. You will tell them that no witchcraft in the world can outlast the music of a heart in tune with eternity. And as you speak, they will hear the faint echo of that melody awakening within themselves the true hymn of the soul, the sound of a life made whole. And when that hymn begins to rise within you, it will not sound like perfection. It will sound like peace. It will not be loud, but it will be unmistakable. It will vibrate quietly beneath everything you do, humming through your words, your gestures, your thoughts. It will teach you that holiness is not a halo, but a harmony, a steady rhythm between intention and action, between belief and behavior. You will begin to see that the true music of life is not about performing for God, but becoming a vessel through which His song flows freely. You will start to recognize that every human being is an instrument in the same divine orchestra, though many have forgotten the melody. Some are out of tune, some play too loudly, some refuse to play at all. Yet the conductor does not abandon them. He waits, patient, steady, waiting for each soul to remember the sheet music written upon the heart. For the music of truth never forces. It invites. It never commands. It calls. And when one soul begins to play again, the others slowly remember their part. This is how transformation happens, not through argument, but through resonance. The world will not be saved by noise. It will be saved by those whose inner lives have become music. Their courage will sound like drums of clarity. Their humility will echo like strings under moonlight. Their kindness will rise like a choir too pure for words. And wherever they go, the atmosphere will shift, because true goodness always has a sound not audible but undeniable. And perhaps this is what C.S. Lewis meant when he spoke of joy as serious business. For joy is not entertainment. It is evidence. It is the sound of the soul remembering heaven. It is the music that remains after every other song fades. When the false hymns of ego, greed, and pleasure lose their grip, joy emerges quiet, profound, eternal. The heart that has heard this sound can never be fully deceived again. You will begin to see wealth differently too, not as accumulation, but as amplification. What money amplifies depends entirely on the spirit behind it. In a greedy heart, it multiplies emptiness. In a grateful one, it multiplies blessing. Wealth was never a curse. Worship of wealth was. Money is a tool, but meaning is the music that tells it what to build. Use it to lift others, and it becomes an act of praise. Hoard it, and it becomes the chains that silence your song. The same principle applies to success, to power, to pleasure, all of them instruments waiting for the right player. In the hands of pride they destroy, in the hands of purpose they create. This is why inner transformation matters more than external achievement. A soul out of tune will turn every blessing into a burden. But a soul in harmony with truth can turn even suffering into symphony. And when pain comes as it must, you will not curse it. You will listen to it. You will hear in it the low, somber note that gives depth to your melody. Without sorrow, joy would have no dimension. Without loss, gratitude would have no color. The soul that sings through tears sings truer than the one that never wept. Suffering, when met with grace, is not the end of music, but its refinement, the polishing of tone, the strengthening of resonance. In that awareness, your life becomes something extraordinary. You stop fearing silence, because you know it is not absence, it is tuning. You stop fearing death, because you realize that only the body stops, never the song. You stop fearing failure, because every wrong note can still resolve into beauty if played with humility. You understand at last that eternity is not waiting for you somewhere beyond the stars. It is waiting for you to listen here, now, in this very breath. And when that truth takes hold, the witchcraft of the world, its vanity, its noise, its endless appetite for attention, loses its power. You no longer need the world's applause to feel alive. You no longer chase its rhythm to feel relevant. You simply walk in tune with something older, purer, unchanging. People will call it peace, but you will know it by its true name, alignment. Alignment between heaven and heart. And in that alignment, you will discover the true freedom humanity has always sought, the freedom not to escape life, but to embrace it with sacred clarity. You will wake each morning aware that your breath itself is borrowed music. You will walk through hardship as through a minor key, not pleasant, but purposeful. You will forgive easily because bitterness ruins harmony. You will love deeply because love is the only melody that endures. And when your final day comes, it will not feel like silence. It will feel like resolution. The music will not end. It will simply shift keys. What began in time will continue in eternity, and the conductor who has listened patiently to your stumbles and your triumphs will smile, not because you were flawless, but because you were faithful. And in that moment, as your soul dissolves into the great harmony of the divine, you will finally understand every act of love was a note, every prayer a chord, every struggle a rhythm, every forgiveness a bridge between heaven and earth. You will see that your entire life was a song, a single unbroken melody of redemption played through the fragile instrument of a human heart that, despite the noise of the world, never forgot how to listen. And when all the world's voices fall silent, when the last echo of false songs fades into the night, there will remain only one sound, the quiet pulse of a soul that has remembered its origin. That sound is not heard by the ear, but felt by the heart. It is the eternal vibration of truth, steady and unbroken, like the heartbeat of heaven beneath the noise of time. It calls every life back home, every restless spirit back into harmony. And in that stillness you finally understand the purpose of life was never to be louder, richer, or more admired. It was to become true. You see now that the greatest battle was never between good and evil in the world, but between truth and imitation within the heart. Every false song, every glittering deception, every whisper of witchcraft was only a mirror meant to show you where you had forgotten the divine melody. But once remembered, no darkness can erase it. No corruption can silence it. For the soul that sings in alignment with love cannot be enchanted by anything less than light. So, let this be your closing prayer, your benediction beyond words, that your life itself becomes a hymn quiet but unbreakable, humble yet holy. Let your days resound with the kind of goodness that needs no audience, the kind of wisdom that glows rather than shouts, the kind of faith that moves not mountains but hearts. And when your final note is played, may it rise not as an ending, but as a return to the great harmony from which all things were born. For the music of heaven has never stopped playing. It only waited for you to remember your part. And now you have.